Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for Catching Up with Kenny Arrow. So in this segment that we're calling it, I'm going to ask Kenny Arrow a bunch of questions, and he can take as much time as he wants, but these are just going to be random questions, kind of on the fly, and he'll have to come up with his best answer. So the first question, Kenny, that I want to ask you is, do you believe that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan will sign with AEW? And out of the two, who would be the best pickup for All Elite Wrestling?
In my opinion, for both people, I think it's pretty much a done deal. I think Punk is locked in for Chicago for September, and he's headed there to make his appearance and show the people that he's back for wrestling. I think he has the itch. I think he's got it back. But in my opinion, I think Daniel Bryan is the more important pickup. I think he could really elevate that division and bring people like Darby Allin and bring the MJFs and bring the Sammy Guevaras with him. I think he is just the most talented technical wrestler, the guy that's going to take this time out and be the veteran for all these guys. And I think that he's just the most professional wrestler that there is. And I think that CM Punk's not going to really care backstage. I think he's just going to pass everybody by.
See, I liked a good quote from one of the other podcasters. He's called Solomonster. He said that Daniel Bryan's going to be the best wrestler in that if he does sign, but CM Punk's going to be the best talker. Yeah, and that is true. Yeah. Not saying Daniel Bryan isn't a great talker, because he is, but when you just look at the two, one's going to be the fucking amazing wrestler putting on clinics, and the other's going to be putting, like
the microphone.
He's going to be drawing in an audience.
Yeah.
So it was.
Someone brings the fight to the fight, and someone brings the talk to the trash.
Exactly. Even if they, and like I said to my buddies, even if they only pick up one, it's still going to be great for AEW.
Yeah.
But if they pick up two, that's game changing.
I think it's going to happen. I think the revolution of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is coming. I honestly feel that AEW within the next 5 years will be the biggest promotion. And I'm going to put it here first. And this is the inaugural episode, so I'm really going to put out my friggin' opinions.
Absolutely. So the second question I wanted to bring up to you is,
yes, sir,
who is the most underrated star in WWE or AEW, and why are they?
For me, the most underrated superstar at this moment, I would have to go with probably Cesaro. For as far as consistent performances, the ability to... He mixes styles with everyone so well. He can put on a regular match. He can put on a tables match. He can sell. He can be the more dominant guy. You really can't put him in a situation he's uncomfortable with. And I feel like he deserves at least a mid-major title to his name to carry around. Or at least multiple reigns with something like a little bit more. He deserves more than what he's had so far.
I agree completely. And
I know it's not a very it's not out there take, but if you want my out there take for someone that's not with either of those companies, it would be Buddy Murphy. I think
yeah, for sure.
Buddy Murphy was unutilized with his Mysterio gimmick. That was absolute trash.
That storyline.
He was thrown to the dogs many a time, and it was almost like Cody was Stardust. You can't give a stallion a fucking tarp and tell him to run. Like, that doesn't make sense, because it doesn't make sense. What I said doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense. You gotta let him go and do his thing.
And the thing that held Cesaro back is Vince obviously doesn't like his promo ability. And I'm not saying that Cesaro is, setting the world on fire with his promos, but I definitely think he can be charismatic. I think
you got to give him I could see a piece. You can give him a talk.
I love the Sheamus and Cesaro stuff. Like, that was awesome. Like,
and I don't know why there's no, you can give a lot more people mouthpieces. You don't have to. I think the thing nowadays is, if we don't know what to do with them, they're either a tag team or a faction. Give them a mouthpiece once in a while. See what that does. Maybe some people just need that extra little spark behind their character that just shoots them into the moon.
And that run with Heyman that he had back in 2014 after he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania, that looked promising.
Yeah.
But I mean, Heyman already had Brock Lesnar, so he kind of got lost in that shuffle. And
And Paul Heyman's allowed to mess up too. You've seen what he done with Curtis Axel and Ryback and Rybaxel when they were a thing. Just some people, like, it just doesn't work and it's not the right time.
It's not, and there can be bad pairings. Like, obviously, Curtis Axel and Heyman didn't work out. I wouldn't even blame that on either of the two. It's just when, Paul Heyman is so synonymous now with Brock Lesnar and even Roman Reigns recently on SmackDown. It's if you, like, just for him to manage these many people, they can't give time to, and Brock Lesnar was the biggest star in the company pretty much. So at that time, and well, even he still is if he ever comes back, it'd just be hard for them to, focus on Cesaro and, treat him seriously in the main event when you already got Brock Lesnar there, and plus Paul Heyman's already with him, so it's...
That's right. And it's hard when you also constantly put other people over at the expense of the same people. It takes the credibility away from, how many people has Dolph Ziggler put over?
Exactly. And how many chances has he got at, a world title, and you just already know that he ain't going to win?
Capitalized on.
It's just made to this guy look good. And it's hard for people to get invested in certain types of feuds because you're just going to look at, when you put a Kofi Kingston against Dolph Ziggler, this was during Kofi Mania back in 2019. We knew Dolph Ziggler wasn't going to win. I'm personally a big fan of Dolph Ziggler, but it's the facts. We knew he wasn't going to win, and
He's really the throwaway guy.
It pulls a lot of the excitement away from a feud when you kind of already know what's going to happen. And I know some things that are predictable isn't bad, but you should have credible opponents, and I think Cesaro is a credible guy, credible opponent. Hopefully he gets an opportunity soon. I know he got a little mini push a few months back, but let's hope they can continue that. And on to the last question. Is there any championship or championships in WWE that you think could be retired right now and it wouldn't impact the company in the slightest?
I think almost the idea of a title is to always kind of keep it going. I think once you build history with a title, like almost the NWA title, I like kind of you have your synonymous design that is the picture that you try to get built, and then you build it up with performers holding that title and what they did with it. I think what you do with the title should be carried with the title, and that's why it's an honor to have the title. So I feel that titles should never be personal. Well, Mr. Brody is a different situation because of the circumstances, the length of the title being even an actual title, and it was just so unique to the situation. But as a rule, I think as a wrestler, what you put into your title should be passed on to the next holder to kind of keep the title credible.
Oh yeah, exactly. And there's just so many championships in WWE today. It's hard for a lot of them to have prestige. Like, obviously, the tag team titles don't have a lot of prestige.
That division hasn't been rebulked or revamped in a while. They focused solely on women's and solo divisions.
For one, Vince McMahon has, he doesn't like tag teams. That's obvious.
Yes.
And even just some of the other titles, like the 24/7, like we see that once every blue moon. We're seeing it more now, and the crowd is back. But, there is a lot of expendable titles in WWE. And I'm not saying there isn't other places, but when you look at the companies and the company that has the most amount of titles, like WWE just has a lot, and it's hard for them to build so many prestigious titles. Like the Intercontinental Championship might have a good run for a couple months with the right guy, but once another guy wins it, it just fades into obscurity.
Because it gets flip-flopped again, just like it used to be. Like, once you get a good run, we had the United States Championship building some steam with Bobby Lashley before he decided to join the main title picture. He dropped it to Riddle. Riddle had a decent run, and it was, okay, it's time for him to lose it. Sheamus went off TV for a little while. And now the momentum is all dried up. You got to kind of keep the title in the main view of the audience. Like, if your performer's gone, make them lose it, and then when they come back, that's what they're aiming for, because that's what they lost. Like, it gives them motivation.
Definitely. And, WWE, the best titles that they have right now is the world titles. Yeah. But that is about it. Because you look at the Raw Women's, who the current Raw Women's champion is now, that we'll get into later on. And also just even Bianca Belair, Bianca Belair has had a decent run. The fans really like her.
She's put on a few good performances.
She's very promising. And we're completely excluding NXT right now because this is just main roster, because main roster has more championships.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it wouldn't be so far-fetched for people to want some titles either removed or, retired, defunct, whatever you want to call it.
Kind of minimize, you don't need to oversaturate things, especially as you're cutting people off like their ribbons at a finish line.
Exactly.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. You can't have that many titles if you're not going to have superstars to compete.
And we'll look past the designs of the titles in the company, because obviously a lot of them ain't great, or a lot of them are generic.
And the color concept.
It's really all about the champion. How can they elevate this title to make it look great? And to finish this segment off, I think Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley both have done awesome in their roles as world champions. And hopefully things will only go up from here for the world titles. And now we're going to move on from catching up with Kenny, and we're going to talk about the issue with Monday Night Raw.